Hello and welcome back to 1000 Gurus. Today's guest is the very talented Alexa Wu. Nice. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. You taking the time out of your day. So I will go into how I know you as usual for my episodes. I remember first seeing you in the K-pop dance community because you danced with Eddie and Hope in First Bite back in like 2017. I went through the archives for these. And you guys won first place in the K-pop cover dance festival, and then you traveled to South Korea, right?
Mhm.
And then after that, then you were in the group Lallery, and it's like a dance music group which started in, I believe, 2019 around that time. That's when the post started. And then you also performed on stage with them in KCON for 2023. And then this past year, 2024 KCON, you were on the Taemin Dream Stage performance, which you went viral for, which I would have told the audience too. And there's a link to the video there as well in the show notes. And then you're also in Playground, which we're both in. And then you are, let's see, cover dance group. Yeah, another dance group in SoCal. And you also teach at KPC and you've taught at S1L and Movement Lifestyle, right?
Mhm.
Any other clarifications of what you're up to? I know it's like a huge list.
Wow, this is a lot. I can't believe you went back to the archives.
It's
of
my job,
First Bite.
yeah.
But yeah, basically First Bite turned into Lallery. So
yeah.
same people.
Mm.
But yeah, we're not very active anymore. So I'm starting to join new groups and more projects. So that's what
Nice.
I'm up to now.
Nice. Cool. So I just want to get right into it. So for our audience who may not know you, just wanted to ask what is Lex's origin story? Like, how did you get into dance and then specifically K-pop? So I guess first main question is like, where did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like and all that stuff?
Okay. So back in the day, my mom was a modern dance sort of, let me think. She was touring around the world with a contemporary dance company. And that's how my whole family got into dance, basically. She had my sister, which is older than me. She went on to be a professional ballerina. We were trained in ballet from a young age. And I feel like I just followed in the sort of family footsteps in a way. But growing up, I was not really into ballet that much. So I was like sort of hating it and being like, when can I quit? I would always make up excuses like I have an injury or like I have something to do at school. But since ballet is so committed and you have to be there every single day, I would always hate just like the commitment to like being there. After a long time of training, I eventually discovered K-pop through my sister. We were like big fans of like K-dramas and stuff, and then eventually that led to K-pop. And then I started seeing the dances that went with it, so I learned it on YouTube, mirrored, and that's when my K-pop journey began. I was about 12 years old, and then I was like, maybe I should start posting Instagram covers because I saw a few online, but not too many. It wasn't that big back then, but it was more like a niche hobby that if I brought it up to anyone at school, they'd be like, "What's that? What, K-pop? What?" Like I have no idea what that is. So I was into YouTube, like learning from YouTube for a long time, and then I went to KCON for the first time in like 2016, and I saw Eddie there. He was like the star of the Random Play Dance, and I was watching him on YouTube for the first time, being like, "Who is that boy?" Like, I've never seen someone so confident, so like enjoying his time so much and being so himself. So I really admired him like a year before he contacted me. And when he did on Instagram, he was like, "Oh, my group is preparing this like 5-member group, and we have 4 members right now, and we need 1 more just for this random competition." So I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm down." Like it was like getting a message from like your biggest idol, and I was like, "Wow, this is gonna be great." But I didn't think it was gonna last that long. So I was super excited to come into practice. I was like the maknae of the
Mm.
group, so I was very nervous. I remember going into the practice for the first time and meeting some of my best friends right now. And they were so nice and being like sort of my moms and being like, oh, like very welcoming and making me comfortable. So I was so grateful that I had found a group that I sort of fit in with. Um, what else? Yeah, so this competition, this was the first competition that we did. We were not prepared. We only had 3 practices in like a few weeks to prepare. We go to the semifinals at the source. This is like the first time I went to the source. We won. I was like, hello? Like, I'm 14. I have never traveled. This is just so random. So then we went to Korea, and it was this whole experience of like tourism, flash mobs, performing on stage, performing in a concert. And it was just like, I was starstruck the whole time. We saw even Brave Girls Backstage, which we were covering Rollin'. I can't believe we found that song before it went viral.
Yeah, right.
But yes, that was very lucky. And we actually saw them backstage. So I was even more like, we saw the artist that of the group that we're covering. Like, it was huge for me. And that was like the start of me wanting to become something more. I had always thought like, oh, K-pop covers is just a hobby, and like I don't think it'll turn into anything, you know. It's just something that I do on the side, and I'll find my career eventually. So we came back home. We started to do more covers. Fast forward, they wanted to become a music group, which I personally was not a part of until later on when they were like, oh, we need more members. Like, can you join? But they started to make big waves in like the K-pop community. It was like kind of controversial actually. But yeah, it was a whole experience of them like going to Korea, recording, making the music video, everything. And then I was watching them like, yeah, like you're gonna be huge. And I don't think there was a lot of K-pop cover groups that made songs. Even until now, I don't see a lot like producing their own, well, not producing, but releasing their own songs. So yeah, I feel like even until now, it was super special to be a part of it. And we got the chance to perform on KCON, the concert stage, which was
Yeah, how was that like?
I still can't believe that happened. Since we had gone to KCON so many years before, it was like we just knew these people like over and over again, seeing them every year and being like, oh, we'll get you on the concert stage next year. And it's like, yeah, right. Like, that's never going to happen, you know? We're just a cover group. We don't have any idol training, you know? It's just a hobby. But somehow it happened. And then that's when I felt like that was my highest achievement. I was like, okay, I can die happy now. I'm like, I'm good.
Did you ever imagine yourself being on stage, or was it more just like, yeah, we're always here at KCON, like this is our home, and then randomly you found it and you're like, wow, this is surreal? Did you ever imagine like maybe being on stage one day?
No.
No, not at all.
I mean, it was always like a goal of mine, like in the back of my head, just being like, oh, that'd be nice.
That'd be
to
nice.
like, be on there one day. But I never knew that circumstances could line up so perfectly that we would just be asked to do it, just 4 of us.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's crazy to me still.
Yeah, that's crazy. How did it come about? Like, did one of the organizers reach out to you, or did you guys reach out to them, or how did that work? Like,
Yeah,
did you
so
get into the list?
basically, a lot of people know Eddie through his TV program that he did in Korea. So after that, he knew a lot of people that were like making KCON, I think. I'm
like
not
involved
sure.
with organizing?
Yeah, yeah, organizers. And Yeah, the year before we prepared this huge set of like doing it at the convention stage, and then unfortunately it was like full that year, so then we just ended up doing nothing. And then I think as like reparations, they were like, "Oh, you can perform on the concert
Mm,
stage next year." But that's like still huge
yeah.
to even consider.
That's a very big like consolation sort of thing. It's like,
Mm.
oh, you can perform on stage, which not a lot of people do except
Yeah.
idols. So
Yeah. I was getting
yeah.
sort of like imposter syndrome. Like,
Mm,
am I actually prepared for this? Like,
mhm,
even though I've been training my entire life for dancing, I feel like on stage I'm gonna forget it all.
mhm.
But yeah, it happened. We pulled through. We're still alive.
How was it like? So, was that like the biggest stage you ever performed on, or have you performed in bigger, or like was it? I imagine it was like you said, it was like a dream come true, very surreal, or maybe intimidating. But how was it like?
um, I mean, I got on stage. I just saw this huge wave of like this arena. You
Mm,
know,
like people.
I noticed the air was really dry for
Mm.
some reason.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna choke on stage. I'm like, um, yeah, I felt kind of dizzy, like I was gonna lose my balance. I was wearing like these 6-inch
Mm,
heels. It was not smart,
mm,
but it was iconic.
yeah.
um, yeah, and the set went by like that. I
Right.
was sort of like, okay, it's over, but like I don't really remember it happening.
Hmm.
But yeah, I guess muscle memory takes over,
Right.
and then yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
That's usually what for I guess for non-dancers out there, like sometimes it's just like that. Like you start dancing and then the next thing you know, you blink and it's done. You're like, wait, what happened?
Hmm.
And thankfully there's muscle memory and all this other stuff. And you kind of can go back and kind of replay it in your brain and be like, oh yeah, that's exactly what happened. But as it's going on, it's like you're almost like a passenger, I would say sometimes for me. It's like you're just
Right?
going.
It's like you're like floating in the back seat,
Mhm.
and who's driving?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How did you guys feel about the performance itself? Like, do you think it was like your strongest performance, or like, were there any mess ups or anything? Or, oh yeah,
Yeah. I think at one point, one of our members, like we were going on the floor and she lost balance,
uh,
but I think she saved it pretty
mm,
well. And um, there's a lot to do with spacing. I think I messed up at one point at like a ripple, and then I made someone else look bad, but
mm,
I'm pretty satisfied with the
yeah,
performance. Like, I don't like to um, focus
mhm,
on anything that you did wrong. It's more
mhm.
like, oh, I'm proud of
Right.
like what we did.
They're not being hard on yourself or anything.
Hmm.
So then, I guess to segue out of that, so then the next year going on with Tame In for the Dream Stage. So for those who don't know, like, could you walk us through how that sort of works to just be on stage with an idol?
Okay. So we actually saw him first in the rehearsal, and he was like very nice. He was sort of like at a distance. We weren't allowed to like be close to
Mm,
him or like touch him
yeah.
or like be surrounding
Yeah,
him.
I mean it's Tame In,
So
so
yeah, safety procedures.
yeah.
He was like waving at us from far away, and all of us are like very starstruck. Like,
Mhm.
it's Taemin,
Mm.
like the king of K-pop, or Prince, I would say.
Prince,
Prince.
he's definitely iconic to say the least.
And yeah, during rehearsal, we were sort of getting used to his presence. So on what was it? By stage time, we were like, okay, we're not allowed to look at him if we're like facing away.
Mm.
I literally did not see him the whole performance,
Mm.
but I can see him behind me in the video. So
Which way were you facing? So I've seen clips obviously, but I'm not sure of the orientation. So like, let's say he's forward, right?
mhm,
Which side were you on?
I was on the left side of the stage,
Okay, so
facing
like
him.
facing left. If he's facing forward, you're facing left.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So not a lot of uh like looks back,
Right. Maybe it was for the best. He doesn't distract you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
like
think I would have just like stood there and
you're like, what are we doing again? We're just watching the show. Sorry. So then going back, could you walk us through like how Dream Stage works? I know there's a few phases, but for people who don't know, like how does that process look like? Like you apply and you send in a video or something, or then there's
yes.
audition
Yes.
phases.
So there's like an online process. You got to post a video, you send in the application. Don't forget the application because you might not get in if you forget to send it. I think my boyfriend Yerson forgot to send it in.
That
Even
sounds
though he
about right.
posted it, there's no way he couldn't have gotten in. Um, Yeah, he should have gone in.
Mm.
We were supposed to get in as a couple, so I was really disappointed.
Mm.
But yeah, anyways, going back to the process, we're going online submission, in person audition at KCON, first thing in the morning, 8 a.m. You have to be there in line, and a lot of waiting. Um, Everyone auditions. You audition again, and then I think a third time. I remember doing it like 3 times on the audition stage.
Oh, 3 times live.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then the Taemin's backup dancers were judging us.
Mm.
So they would call us out immediately. Like, you're in, you're not. And then they would sort of filter it down and be more, what is it? Be more like selective.
Mm.
After that, we went backstage. We were practicing. We were sort of getting it together so everyone knew the same timing and like when to go on, when to stop. I think we were practicing for like maybe 2 hours. We had lunch. That was the only time we were allowed to like go out. We weren't even allowed to go into the convention, which is like, dang.
Yeah.
It's like wasting a whole day.
Right. You guys
So-
like held hostage.
Yeah. I felt like I was like in jail.
Mhm.
So we come back, practice even more, and then waiting for like maybe 2 more hours, just like doing your makeup or like running it one more time or going to the bathroom. Like, it takes so long. And then we had rehearsal, waiting even more, go on stage, and then we're done.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay. And then this passed by. So then you had your like that video I think you reposted recently, which was like it was a collection of reels or videos where it's like K-pop cover dancers that get possessed by the idols, and it's that one, right? You know what I'm talking about. And then you're at the end of the reel, and it was like it started off with that one girl who looks like Chaewon, and it was going through, and it was like all these really good artists who or cover dancers, and then ends with you on stage with Taemin, like your video from KCON.
Mhm.
So what was that like? I mean, this was your second time on KCON stage at the very least, right?
Mhm.
And were you just like, was this kind of at that point, it's just natural to you? Like you've run it so many times and you're just on stage and just living? Or like, how does one, I don't know. You were amazing. And I think everyone agrees. How do you get to that point of just being like so comfortable on stage and just performing it and that everyone kind of like, you get that attention for like, wow, she was so good on stage?
Well, I feel like performing on stage the year before definitely helped me to know what to avoid, such as getting too excited right before you're going on stage. You're like shaking with adrenaline, and then you tend to overdance too much. Also, I had the opportunity to watch the Dream stage the year before and be able to observe sort of behaviors that I would or wouldn't do, such as overdancing or being like too still. What else?
So kind of just looking at best practices and kind of preparing yourself to be on
Mhm.
stage and not over dancing or anything like that.
Yes.
Mm.
And sorry, I forgot the question.
How do you, so I guess preparing to be on stage like that, but um yeah, I don't know. Like I know a lot of it as a fellow dancer, like, you have to be prepared and ready, but
Mhm.
then you could still kind of lose your focus or concentration, but then also performing is like with your face and like with
Mhm.
your body is another aspect to just doing choreography.
Right. I think I
Yeah.
was really lucky that the song was Move,
Mm.
since I knew it from many years before, and also it was sort of in my style where I grew up doing contemporary and I sort of knew how to like move more fluidly, if that makes sense. Um, I was able to sort of remember my training and sort of incorporate it into like the leg kick and like the hip movements is very easy to me, that because I've done it so many times before, I didn't have to stress about like, oh, am I going to do it right?
Mm.
It's like whether I'm going to do it or not, you know?
Mm.
You just like you know that you're going to do it. Um yeah, the hardest part I would say was right before going on stage, where you're in the arena, you hear everyone
Mm,
screaming, the lights go dark,
yeah.
and then Taemin goes on stage. You know that you have to like go on stage in a bit, and then there's like these stairs that you go up. I was like, I'm gonna trip for sure. Like you can't like stall at all because it's like everything is timed.
Mm.
I'm just like stressed out thinking about it.
Yeah, all the cortisol's
Um,
coming back.
yeah, and then um, so right before, I think I was sort of meditating. I was like closing my eyes, taking deep breaths, being like drown out the noise, sort of like get used to this level of noise because I'm very sensitive. My ears sort of like pick up loud noises even more, and yeah, I it sort of like makes my body really fight or flight.
Mm.
So yeah, I was trying to regulate my nerves right before, and I feel like that helped a lot.
Mm. What is it, really quick tangent? So, what is that sort of meditation practice or ritual beforehand? Like, do you do that often, or is it just kind of like that one time, or what is it?
Yeah, so usually right before I go on stage, I get a lot of anxiety. Even as many times as you go on stage, like it just happens for me. Like it doesn't go away.
Mm.
um, but what I've learned is that you sort of have to remind yourself like where you are, how this is just one performance out of many that I've done before. It's not that serious, and like you don't have to do perfect. You just have to like show who you are, and you already did the practice. Just do it. So, yeah, I feel like it's a matter of staying sane right before,
Mm.
not being too in your head like, "Oh my gosh, like I don't know what's going to happen," being like spiraling into that sort of unsure mindset.
Mm. So it's like a lot of self-talk, sort of like
Mhm.
affirmations and whatnot.
Yes.
Mm, nice. Okay, a couple of things before we switch. One is, so so after you went viral for this sort of moment and everything, um, what was it like? Like, did anything change, or did, I don't know, like social media is like a weird thing, right? You blow up and stuff like that. Did anything change after that, or any aspect of your dance cover career?
I feel like my mentality changed the most.
How so?
Sort of like I knew that I had potential. Before, I was very self limiting, being like, oh, like it's just my social media. Like I only have a lot of followers because I worked on it for so long. Like I'm probably just normal, you
Mm.
know? And then after I sort of went viral, I was reading these comments and being like, hmm, like maybe the people around me are somewhat right. Like my loved ones always tell me like I'm special or like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I can't fully believe them because
Right,
they're
right.
biased.
Yeah, you're supposed
But
to support me. Hello.
yeah.
Yeah.
So all the love and support I've been getting from my loved ones has sort of helped me to boost my self-esteem, and um yeah, I'm really grateful for this experience because it led me to open my mind to like think about more possibilities that might be possible in the future. And like even though it's slow change physically, I feel like a lot has happened up here.
Mm,
So
I see. That's that makes sense. For really profound. So last question on that then is, what do you foresee in your future? So what is the vision for 5 years future, Lex, or 10 years? Like, where do you see yourself going in terms of K-pop, cover dancing, or anything related?
hmm. Well, recently I sort of committed to my dream of becoming an artist, and I haven't really said it a
Mm.
lot anywhere, so maybe you're the first. I don't
Nice.
know.
That's exciting.
But
Breaking news
yeah.
in December.
But yeah, I'm gonna start to get vocal training, and I'm really working towards releasing my own music, which I know a lot of like influencers start to do, but I really want to make it like art. I don't want to just release a song that isn't treasured by me.
Mm,
So I'm gonna work very hard on it, and hopefully it'll come out soon.
nice. That's very exciting. I'm
Mhm.
I'm excited for you. So let's pivot a little bit. So I know a few of the topics that you wrote about that you might want to talk about. A few of them involve following your passion as a purpose, creating a good relationship with yourself. So kind of like
Mhm.
knowing yourself, self awareness. And then a big thing that you mentioned was like learning from your mistakes and experiences.
Mhm.
Is there anything of those topics you want to start with first, or any stories you want to tell?
Ooh. Mm, I kind of want to talk about how developing a good relationship with myself helped me to improve my dance.
Mm. Okay. So how did that start? Like developing a relationship with yourself. Is it something that you start off and like, okay, I need to develop this relationship, like self-love, self-talk and whatnot? Or was there like a catalyst for that?
Um, mm, I think it all happened in 1 year for me, or maybe a year and a half.
Mm.
It was sort of like I was going through a depression era, and I just desperately wanted someone to pull me out, but it wasn't happening. So I was like, why isn't this happening? Doesn't anyone care about me? And I was like wondering, um, like if I die right now, sorry, this is like trigger warning, but
Mm.
if I die right now, would anyone even like miss me? Um, but then I sort of came to the realization that no one's going to save you unless you want to save yourself. Even if people around you tell you advice and loving words, like you're going to deflect all of it. It's just going to go one ear out the other. Like you're not going to believe it unless you want to believe it yourself. So I sort of started to want to improve uh, my relationship with myself and sort of treat me as I'm treating someone else, as if I'm another person. Like my body is separate from my soul. So I was reading a lot of these, um, let me think, not books, but more TikToks.
Okay.
So there's a lot of information that people have on self care and affirmations, and all of this was very new to me. I was like, this is just woo woo, you
Mm.
know? I don't know if it actually works. Like, you talking to yourself in the mirror, that sounds crazy.
Mm.
So I was like, very skeptical at first. I was like, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. Like, maybe I'm just wasting my time. So I was like working on shadow work first. It was shadow work, if you don't know, it's uh, sort of seeing all your flaws and um, like journaling and mm, I wouldn't say it's just journaling, but it's more like accepting who you are
Mm.
as a whole person rather than ignoring your problems and trying to appear perfect to everyone else. So I was working on like seeing myself as a full person and being more accepting of who I was and who I wanted to be, and sort of just making small changes to become like the highest version of myself, basically. Um, let me think. From there, I was I was not dancing back then. Like,
What time period
I
was this, or how long ago?
mm,
Just for the audience.
I think during COVID,
Okay.
like in my dance account, I had a lot of sort of hiatuses.
Mm.
I don't know if I would call it that because only K-pop idols say that, but
Right.
um, it's like breaks where I would just stop posting for like months, and it was weird because I was like, how come I don't love this anymore? And I sort of lost my passion for everything, but um, slowly it started to come back once I started to learn more about myself and remember how much like playfulness and joy I used to have with just making covers and like doing it for fun, doing it with my group and like spending time with other people. I feel like it really brought me out of my shell. And yeah, I started to understand dance more deeply once I met my boyfriend Yerson. He sort of understands dance as if it's like your personality,
Mm.
or like, I mean, go watch his podcast
Yeah.
episode. I bet he explains it.
Yeah.
But yeah, he could read me like a book. I was so surprised the first time that he explained my dancing to me,
Mm.
because I thought I knew how I danced, but I didn't know why I danced like that. So he said stuff like, you have a lot of control because you like to have control over a lot of things in your life. And I was like, excuse me.
It's
But
very like
he's
fortune telling.
right.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me.
Mhm.
And yeah, he says like you like to stand out, but in a subtle way. And it's like, that's also true.
Mhm.
And you can see it in my dancing, where it's like I just make subtle movements, but somehow I sort of catch your eye. And I felt like no one has really seen me like that before. So I was like, like he sees deeper than the surface.
Mm.
And like, I really appreciated it.
Yeah.
And yeah, until now, I've been sort of deep diving into dance and sort of the art inside of it. And not just seeing the dance on the surface, but being like, why do people dance like that? And sort of trying to read them through their dancing. It's
Greg
like
Gerson.
another sort of world. It's crazy. But yeah.
Nice. Yeah. One thing about Yerson is he's very like emotionally aware too. Is like he can kind of sense what's going on, especially between people or like, people's emotions, which I really appreciate about him. It's, he's a good friend to have in that sense because he kind of gives you like a different perspective, and it's also usually very insightful. So on the, you said you were doing all this like shadow work and like kind of trying to know yourself.
Mhm.
Were there any sort of, I guess, takeaways or lessons learned either about yourself or how to kind of deal with that depression that you said you were in to get to where you are now?
Yeah, I think I took it so seriously to the point where I was like, I don't have a purpose. Like, I don't deserve to live. And if I start doing a career and it's wrong, like, I'm just wasting my time. But that's not true. Like, you can do anything in this life. You have unlimited potential for like anything that you want to do. So I realized that I should just start on something. I should commit my time to like growing my skills towards something. And I guess I didn't realize it at the time, but I was going to dance classes. I was like starting to post more on my Instagram. I was joining more covers and being like, okay, this is taking up like my whole time. So I'm just going to stick with it until now. And I realized it sort of invigorated me again. I had this sort of excitement for the future. Like, oh, what am I going to wear for this cover? How can I make it more exciting so I'm like, um, so people can see that it's exciting. I don't know. But it turned out to be sort of like my purpose. I don't know if I would call it a purpose, but it's just what excites me for now, and I'm okay with that.
So kind of like following, well, one takeaway, correct me if I'm wrong, that I'm taking from this is that kind of to bring you out of your, I guess, self or your slump, it's
Mhm.
focusing on creating something, building something, or something to do that makes you active and to improve yourself. Like when
Yeah.
you're growing, right, you're focusing on that and not so much of like what's lacking and
Mm.
the things that will bring you down. And then the other thing was like following what excites you, right? So like
Yes.
your passions. And so for right now, it's like dancing and like being in covers and performing with your friends and whatnot. So it's like following that passion just to kind of get you in like that positive space.
Yes.
Mm.
I totally agree with that. And sorry, I feel like following your passion is what leads you to your purpose. Like, this is just me personally, but I believe before we're born, we sort of choose the right body that will lead us to what we want to do in this life. So why would I choose this body to like something if I'm not supposed to do it?
Mm.
And I've been sort of listening to what I like and staying away from what I don't like. And it's really been helping me to narrow it down and be like, okay, I like this thing, but there's something in it that I don't like. Okay, I'll save it for another time. And then I just find something that's like all green lights and I'll just go.
Mm.
So,
I see. So it's kind of like you're retrospecting in a sense of like figuring out what you like about certain things and kind of seeing where things align and then going in that direction.
mhm,
Nice. I like that a lot. Kind of similar to that, you mentioned like learning from your mistakes and experiences.
mhm.
Was there anything in particular or like a lesson or a story or anything or insights that you learned on that topic?
Yes. So there are things in life where you regret it and you feel like if you went back, your life would be so much better. But that's not the case because what happened from that bad experience is that you learned from it and it sort of shaped you to change yourself into who you are right now. So if you actually went back and erased it, you wouldn't be here right now.
Mhm.
And like the butterfly effect is a very real thing. So I feel like having regrets is not really smart because it's like that means you wouldn't be yourself.
Mm.
You would be someone that's like expecting perfection from everything until now because you've never experienced anything bad. And I don't think that's a good way to live
Right.
because if something bad happens, you're not going to know how to deal with it.
Mm.
And yeah, what what else did you?
Yeah. Were there any, if you would like to share any experiences or things that you've learned on the topic of, um, I get what you're saying, right? Which is don't regret your experiences. They help you grow and you get to learn and get stronger from that for
Mm.
the future. Are there any sort of formative experiences or challenges that you faced that you learned from, or any stories on that that you can share with the audience?
Mm. Let me think of one. Mm.
Like a catalyst for maybe any of this? I'm sure we have all. I have a lot
I
of
know I'm like
my list
thinking.
of regrets is just as long as like, where do I start?
Yeah, where do I start? Um, well, it's sort of an experience that I don't like to remember, but it was necessary for me to learn from it. I was very mean to one friend, and in my childhood, I felt like it was okay to just say anything that you wanted, and there was like gonna be no
Repercussions or
punishment. Yeah,
consequences? Yeah.
yeah, but it turned out to make her have a lot of insecurities growing up, and she told me like long time after that it really affected her growing up, and this was like a huge shock for me because I thought we were best friends. I was like, anything I say to you, it's like out of love, you
Mhm.
know. But sometimes people will believe your words only, not your intentions. So that's how I learned that I have to make myself clear, even if it seems like a joke, it might not be to someone else. And also, I know to be sensitive with my words now. And that's why I tend to pause or like stutter when I'm talking because I really don't want to put out something that I might want to just stay. Yeah.
Makes sense. Like being more thoughtful with your words.
Mm.
I had this same conversation with a friend of mine who she kind of likes to have this reputation of very blunt, so to speak.
Mm.
But it's not so much just bluntness, it's also a little bit of like rudeness. But she thinks she's being honest and she thinks that's like the virtue, right? Is like being
Right.
honest.
Right.
But I was telling her, I'm like, okay, I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree to some extent. But I think part of wisdom is knowing that you can still say the truth, but with kindness and
Mm.
consideration, because like what you're saying, you can't really take back words. So I think the hallmark of someone who is thoughtful and wise is someone who doesn't just say whatever they think.
Mm.
Because you there is an in between of saying the truth, but also saying it kindly and respectfully, and to try to do your best to communicate what your intentions are, as opposed to just like when we're younger, our throwaway comments that we're like, oh, it's totally fine. Because I think we've all done that. And later on, it's like it sticks with someone because we also remember when someone says something to us and we're like, that really hurt. And why am I still thinking about
Yeah.
it like years later? But
Yeah.
of course, that person probably didn't mean it that way.
Mm.
But it makes you kind of think about that. So I totally agree. Any other like, um, so we covered a good relationship with yourself, learning from your mistakes. I know you talked about performances as well, and I know like in a dance technical aspect, we kind of like you mentioned, you watch yourself dance, or you watch like the other performers, and you kind of approach dance like that. Is there anything else in terms of like um, learning from your mistakes or any other takeaways?
Sorry, I just spilled on
It's
myself.
all good.
I didn't listen to that last part.
No, it's all good. Just any last like takeaways for like lessons learned on making mistakes? I think
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of people can relate to that.
When you're in class, make mistakes.
Mhm.
That's your time to really mess up because when you're on stage, that's when you're going to be more harsh on yourself if you did make a mistake and be like, "Oh, why didn't I practice that more before?" It's because you're so scared to mess up that you wouldn't let yourself. And um
Yeah,
sorry, my mind just went
it's
further.
all good. No,
Uh,
that was complete thought because
yeah.
it's also it's not just dance. It's like life, right?
Mhm.
Don't be afraid to mess up. Dance teacher told me a long time ago that you can't look good and get better at the same time, which is exactly what you're saying. Which is you can't try to look perfect
Mhm.
when you're trying to grow because growing necessitates you making mistakes.
Exactly.
So yeah, and I think that's obviously we're talking about dance, but we actually it's
It applies
applicable to
to a lot
life.
of
Yeah,
different
everything
things.
else. Cool. Yeah, I think that's wraps up that. Or any last things you want to bring up for those topics?
No.
Okay, so rapid fire questions. I
Okay.
know you were preparing for this. All right. So first, rapid fire question for season 2. We changed it up a little bit. So first one is the billboard question. So if you could put up a sign for millions of people to see, what would it say?
Mm. Authenticity over perfection.
Nice. Any reason for that?
Because I feel like when I see people dance and they're actually being themselves rather than trying to copy whoever they're covering in the dance cover, it turns out to be way higher quality. And it just makes me happier to see them enjoying how they are instead of putting down themselves and being like, oh, I have to follow this because I don't trust myself to make my own judgments or decisions on this dance move. Or, yeah, it also applies to other things in life, but this is just an example of like K-pop covers.
Yeah, definitely. I like that. Um, Next question is, what is your favorite failure or something challenging that you learned the most from?
Ooh. Mm. I thought I had an answer, but I'm like going blank. My favorite.
Maybe something that like was challenging that you thought wasn't good. Nice.
I
First
used
person.
it.
There you go.
uh,
That set you up for success later on.
hmm. My favorite failure. Well, I would say one year that I wasn't participating in Lallery, I had no events during KCON to be at. And I was sort of disappointed because I was like expecting something, being like, oh, I've done all this stuff the years before. And like, I was really disappointed that I couldn't be part of this group that I've worked so hard on. And they were doing great things. Like, they're having so many panels and performances and stuff. And at the time, I was sort of jealous of them. And now that I realize, um, like looking back at it, I'm very grateful to have been put in that sort of mindset so I can see how far I've gotten until now, where I wanted it so bad to be part of a group that was very talented and well put together and put so much hard work into their performance. And yeah, I'm glad that I got to experience both sort of parts of being a fan and a performer.
This one might be a little different, might be the same. It's called self-inflicted wound. So, do you have a story that about something that went wrong in your life that's your own fault and you can't blame anyone else but yourself because you did it to yourself? Hence, self-inflicted wound.
Hmm. I would say letting people decide my worth. Um, in school, I was very quiet. Like when I went to public high school, I was always changing or like transferring. So I would never make friends. I would be sort of like more hidden to myself. And in my head, I would be like, no one wants to be my friend. Like I'm not an interesting person to be with. And like over the years, it sort of just stuck with me. And I I didn't make the effort to like talk to anyone. So I sort of made up this sort of uh this false story, false narrative
Mm.
in my head that I was undesirable to be around or no one sort of wanted to be around me. So I feel like that was a self-inflicted wound that I could have avoided, but since I wanted to be the victim, I let myself like judge me even harder.
Mm. Yeah. It's always easier to just make ourselves the victim, right, than to take responsibility.
Oh yeah.
So I know we talked about regrets, but if you could redo one thing, what would you redo differently? Like a thought experiment,
Mm.
obviously.
Well, just to experience it, I would love to perform on the KCON stage again,
Mm,
just to enjoy the moment.
yeah.
But you said is like as a regret, so um, mm, can't think of anything right
It's
now.
all good. If you could give your younger self advice, what would it be now? Any time
Mm,
period, any age.
uh, be more grateful of how your parents accept you and support you, since I only recognized that maybe last year or just recently, and I feel like I could have given so much more love to my parents and really show them my appreciation when I was growing up. But since it had always been that way, I always was like, I want more. I'm not happy with this. Like you should pay for me more to like be even like a better dancer or
Like
like
entitlement, sort of.
yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. So I feel like I could have been a better daughter,
mm.
definitely. But yeah, I know now.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the hard things too, is like, I think it's a universal sort of experience for kids to take their parents for granted as much as
Mm,
they like accept us and love us unconditionally and provide for us. And we're just like, yeah, that's always going to be there. And then you become an adult or you grow up and you're like, wait, like I really appreciate all this stuff. And now that when you move into like, I don't want to say like building a family yourself, right? But when you start to get to that age where it's like now there's people younger than you and you kind of like a mentor figure, or eventually if you have kids or you look up after people and then you're now self-sacrificing to help other people and then you're like, wait, my parents did so much for me.
mm,
And I realize that too as I'm getting older and like dancing around a lot younger people, and like, I want to help them to grow. And then I'm like, wait, like this feeling of like maybe being unappreciated,
mm.
but then it's like, no, but our parents have even more of that, and it's like the
Right.
tip of the surface because like they love us unconditionally, but we don't
Unconditionally.
even like consider that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel that. um in the last few years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has improved your life?
Mm. Mm. I will say behavior. I've started to treat my life as like a video game, sort of taking everything as if I can change anything that I want. I
Mm,
can like dress up however I want. I'm like I'm just playing a game.
mm,
And that's not saying I don't take life
right.
seriously, but
You
it
have more
makes
control over like
yeah,
different aspects.
it makes it more like it makes me more mindful making choices that I want to see in my character in the future. it helps me to see my life in like a 3D perspective, sort of, or maybe 4D. I'm not sure,
Mm.
but sitting on the back end and being like, oh, I can see how this is going.
Oh, like in a third party sort of
Third perspective.
third party perspective.
Yes.
Yeah. Mhm. I gotcha. Yeah, I like it.
Mhm.
Um, who would you call successful, and how do you define success?
Mm. Who, as in a specific person? Or
Yeah.
okay, I'll say my older sister. Since she is living the life right now. She's in Sweden. She's a professional ballet dancer with well-paid company. Like she gets summer off.
Mm.
She gets paid during the summer because it's like funded by the government. It's
Wow.
really nice. Even during COVID, she was like chilling.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, I feel like she's successful because she's following her passion and she is also able to be stable. And she has 2 cats. She's super happy with her boyfriend. And I'm just like over the moon that she's in such a good place.
Nice. How much older is she?
3.5 years.
3.5 years. Okay,
Mhm.
nice. Wait, when did she? You said Switzerland.
Sweden.
Sweden.
Yes.
When did she move over there?
Ooh, maybe 5 years ago.
Oh, okay, so she's been there for a while. Wow, that must be really cool, like living in another country like that.
Yeah. I think she just got her citizenship, so
Mm,
she can go back and forth, and
mm,
yeah, she doesn't have to get a visa anymore.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
When I think of Sweden, I think of Frozen. Is that where Frozen is based off of, or is it another country?
I think
Norway.
Norway.
Thank you, Norway. It's one of those countries. I remember going to Switzerland, and I was like, "This looks just like Frozen,"
Right?
but it's like that area.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
the houses.
Yeah, the houses.
I love Switzerland.
How have you been? I'm
Yes.
assuming. How was it like?
Switzerland?
Yeah, or any place. I
Oh.
guess Switzerland.
Well, Switzerland
Sweden.
is my favorite place.
Oh
in the
yeah, yeah.
world. I went to visit my aunt there. She lives there, and she took us to like a lot of nature places. And the forests are so mossy, and it just feels
Mm.
so magical.
It's so like foresty and like
Mhm.
very like close to earth and
Yeah.
everything.
Like when you think of the woods in like a fairy tale, that's
Yes,
Switzerland.
yes, definitely fairy tale like land.
Mm-hmm.
It's so nice. I definitely want to go back.
Yes.
All right. Next one is, if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you try, or what would? Okay. Cool. If you knew you couldn't fail, what would you try, or what would you be doing now?
Investing,
Oh yeah, like what kind?
like stocks.
Okay. Well, why so?
Because I feel like if you were successful, then it wouldn't take so much time, and then you could. It's like passive income, basically.
So it's like you see it as like an efficient way to make money,
Mhm.
like if you're good at it, right?
Yeah.
I like it. And then you can spend your time doing other stuff.
Yeah, stuff
Nice.
just arts and crafts.
Yeah. What is one of the best or most worthwhile investments that you've ever made? Like time, money, energy, etc.
I would say being forced to do ballet when I was younger because it has really helped me to become a well-rounded dancer that I am now. Yeah, going to the studio every day for almost 15 years and having very strict teachers helped me learn discipline, technique, and a lot of necessary things to become a good dancer.
Nice. Like it. All right, last two. Favorite recent purchase, let's say under 50 or $100, that has impacted your life the most in the last 6 months.
Ooh. Let me see. Impacted my life.
We can change the parameters of like the price or the time.
I will say not these glasses,
Yeah.
but the red glasses that I wore at KCON. Because I feel like it's sort of indirect, but the office siren trend has been going around on TikTok and Pinterest and Instagram, and I feel like those glasses really helped to catch the attention of whoever was underneath me. I was really committing to like this aesthetic. And actually, I was worried that I was gonna fall off on stage, so
Mhm.
I was like taking a risk to wear it. But I was like, no, I'm gonna wear these glasses.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're so cheap. I got them on Shein, I think,
Mm.
$5 maybe. And yeah, they changed my life.
Nice. I like it. It's like $5 glasses, but probably helped you stand out a lot and blow
Yeah.
up. Nice. Okay, last rapid fire question. Any favorite books, movies, videos, articles, media, etc. that you share or recommend the most?
Hmm. Well, today I am dressed in the sort of aesthetic as Coraline. So
Ooh.
this has been my favorite TV series, not series, but movie
Mm.
for Halloween and getting into a sort of comfy, nostalgic, creepy, like fall atmosphere.
Mhm.
So I recommend watching it to anyone who loves sort of thriller and claymation, and it's really well
Mm.
produced. Like there's so many details and so much lore that's involved. So I can spend so many days just watching it over and over again, and each time I'll find a new detail.
Mm. Yeah, Coraline, right?
Mhm.
It's a cult classic for sure. Um, who's the director for that? Tim Burton. That's right, Tim Burton.
No, it's
It's
not.
not?
It's my gosh, I forgot his name.
Oh yeah, that one guy.
But people are like very adamant that
Mm.
it's not Tim
Oh,
Burton.
okay. All right. So it's a misnomer sort of thing.
Sorry to correct you.
Coraline, let's see.
Henry Selick.
Henry Selick? Oh, I see. Interesting. Okay. We were wrong. You were right.
No, no. I didn't even know the name, but
Nice.
yeah.
Cool. So Coraline, definitely.
Mhm.
Okay, that is it for the rapid fire questions. So we can go into our ending. So I always like to end with gratitude, something I learned from my mom. So Lex, what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for my ability to see bad experiences as helpful experiences, and it has really helped me to not spiral into a depression anymore. So, yeah, I'm grateful for my mentality.
Very nice. And do you have any final ask from the audience or any final takeaways you want them to have from this conversation?
Mm, I want to inspire the viewers to be more playful in their everyday lives. Even if you're doing mundane activities such as driving or cooking, maybe add some intention in there and yeah, have some fun.
I love it. Have some fun and intention.
Mhm.
So Lex, that is pretty much it for the show. Where can we find you if the audience would like to connect or see what you're up to? We'll have all of your links to your socials and everything in the show notes, but where can they find you?
You can find me at Olegi on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
Nice. Where does Olegi come from? What is that name? I forgot to
It's
ask.
a very warped version of my name, Alexa.
Mm,
I think one of my friends way back when used to call me Alexa, so
mm.
that's where the G's came from. And then I think my ballet teacher said Olegsa a lot with an O. So then I sort of combined those like Olegsa and then Olegi.
So it's like a play off of those things. Nice. I like it. Cool. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up. So thank you again, Alexa or Lex,
Mhm.
for being here. And just to sign off for the audience. So thank you guys for tuning in. Just a reminder to always be kind to others, especially yourself, and that you can always learn something from someone if you just take the time to listen. So thank you for tuning in.
Thank you so much.